Let me first introduce myself. I'm Debbie Schlesinger-Hellman. Along with me is Andrew Cannon. We are partners on the Art and Science of Joy and the Year of Joy. And for those on the call that don't know much about the Year of Joy, let me just give you a little bit of information. We put together a free online community for a year to help people build their joy muscle, as we call it. The online community consists of a number of members who've joined, along with all the experts that come on each week to share with us different areas we need to develop our muscle to give us more joy. Karen is one of those today. So every week you would find a new expert giving us information, education, tools, and tips on our community platform. And you'll be able to engage in that, listen to podcasts, see some interviews, read the materials, take some quizzes, some polls, and chat in the chat room with others who are like-spirited, also wanting to build their joy muscle. So that is what we set out to do. We launched this in January. There is no time. There's no issue starting later in the year. Everything is in the library. You can go back and look at what you've missed and, of course, continue on. And we encourage you to sign up if you haven't already and to share that with your friends and family, because the more people that build their joy muscle, the better off we all are. The world becomes just a little better place. So with that, I'd like to introduce Andrew Cannon, my partner. He is from Finland, the happiest country in the world. Today, he happens to be sitting in Hilton Head at a conference, but he is from Finland. I'm sitting in Los Angeles, and Andrew, take it from here.
Yes, thank you very much for those wonderful words, Debbie. And first of all, an apology that I am going to have to jump ship because I'm supposed to be spreading joy to all the people at this conference. So that's why I have my funky joy jellyfish shirt on. But let me introduce Karen before I jump. Karen's an amazing person. A lot of you obviously on the call know Karen. But I'm going to just read her little bio as she put together for me, because it is a wonderful bio. So Karen is obviously a wonderful storyteller and musician, an award-winning recording artist, no less. Traveled China, South Korea, Hong Kong, Peru, and in August 2022 did her first post-pandemic tour to Argentina to tell stories in person. That was an amazing experience, I'm sure. And then since the pandemic, Karen has performed and taught virtually in 15 countries around the world, and her written stories have been published in 8 anthology collections. Not bad, not bad. Karen is also founder and director of Creative Learning Place, a homeschool learning center who we're amazed to be partnering with also on EQ Joy. That's another story for another day. And it's passionate about creating a paradigm shift in education. So amen to that, Karen. Fantastic. And when she's not making stories, music, educational connection, not really sure what she's up to, but she can be found in a garden tending her many flowers, plants, and she's not living in Finland because she's also tending her turtles. And that brings her a great deal of joy. So with those words, I'm going to wish you a most wonderful storytelling hour, and I'm going to look forward to listening to the recording and connecting with you all. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful, wonderful time with Karen. Over to you, Karen. You're in charge.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Debbie, for welcoming me so warmly to the Year of Joy. So I want to thank you again for your warm welcome. I've had a blast this past couple of weeks being part of the Art and Science of Joy community. And for those of you who are listening to this recording, I also welcome you to this next hour that we're going to spend talking about the art of oral storytelling. So as I'm looking at everyone's face here, I know half the people that are here, but by the end of this hour, I bet I'm going to know all of you just a bit more. So how about we start our session together today with a story? How does that sound? Okay.
Sounds good.
So I would like to start by sharing with you a folk tale. I tell different kinds of stories. I tell true stories. I tell personal stories, family stories. I also tell folk tales. this particular folk tale really helps me hone in on why is it important to create good stories. This story goes like this. One day, the man turned to his wife and he said, honey, I need to find the truth. And she said, well, then look for it. And he said, I really need to leave this house because I don't think the truth is here. I need to find the truth. And so he left his home in search of truth. And he walked 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 and he walked. Now, audience participation is always fun, especially in folk tales. And it's at this point that if you'd like to join me, you can. He walked and 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 he walked. If we were together in the same room, then what would happen is the synergy of our energy together would all come together and we would find joy just in participating. And you may be thinking, audience participation is only for little kids, but that's not true. Adults can enjoy it as well. So he walked and 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 he walked. And he walked for a long time. And finally he went, because he was tired. He continued walking and walking and walking. He climbed over mountains and down into valleys. He even crossed the vast ocean.
Wow.
Mm. If you've never made the sound of the ocean, one of the amazing things about Zoom is you cannot play music together, but you can create an ocean together. So if you'd like to unmute, it will sound like ocean waves and seagulls. Here we go. And when he got to the other side of the ocean, he walked and he walked and he walked until he came to the top of a mountain. And on that mountain, there was a cave. And in that cave, he saw a woman. She was old. She was the oldest woman he had ever seen. She had long, stringy white hair. She had wrinkly skin, and her fingers, they looked like the gnarled roots of an old tree. But when she opened her mouth to speak, it was as if he heard the voice of thunder. And when she started to speak, the sound of her voice showed him that she was none other than Lady Truth. He learned from her for a year and a day, because in folktales, it's always a year and a day. And finally, it was time for him to go back to his wife and family. And so he said to her, my lady, you have taught me so much. You have taught me so much about the truth. I am wondering if there is anything I might do for you. She picked up an old wizened finger and she put it up to her lips. And then she opened her mouth to speak. And this is what she did. She said, when you go back to your people, tell them I am young and beautiful. Lady Truth. So, what do you think? Did he go back and tell them that she was young and beautiful?
I hope so.
Yeah, I think he probably told a good story.
Yeah.
So today we are going to talk about the elements of what makes a good oral story. Some of these elements can also be added to written stories. But today, since we're not going to be writing together, we're going to be talking together. And I'd like to share with you some of the things I've discovered along the way that make for a good oral story, the kind of stories that are memorable, the kinds of stories that you'll think about later after you've heard the story, or you hope that someone will think about your stories after you share them. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of what I call the 7 essentials of a good story, let's introduce ourselves to each other. Now, we have a small group. I was planning on going into breakout rooms, but you know what? We have such a small group right now. I think we can just introduce ourselves, and we're going to do this very briefly. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about the story of your name. How did you get your name? Were you named after someone? Were you named, did you choose your own name? Did you get your name because of a kind of a family tradition? Very briefly, we're going to introduce ourselves with our name stories, just so that we get to know one another just a little bit. Now, this is amazing. It's probably the first time I'll be telling my name story with actually 2 members of my family in the same room, so they can attest to whether or not I'm telling the truth. But then again, maybe we don't always have to tell the truth when we're telling a story. So my name is Karen. And the story goes, now my sister, Deborah Golden-Steinman, Debbie, can attest whether this is true or not. So my name is Karen. And when I was born, the day I was born, my mother finished reading the book Exodus by Leon Uris. And she closed the book. The main character in that book was named Karen. And the story goes that she came home and she said to my 5 older brothers and sisters, well, she didn't go home. My father went home. And he said, Mom had the baby and she'd like to name the baby Karen. What do you think? And everybody said, sounds good. But then there was some discussion about naming me May because my birthday is May 1st. But then someone chimed in and said, I don't know, maybe May isn't such a good name. Let's go with Karen. And so that's how I got my name. I'm named after the character in the book Exodus by Leon Uris. That's how I got my name. Now, my name is pronounced Karen in English, but when I moved to Israel, I learned that my name in Hebrew is pronounced Karen with a R in the middle. And I thought, whoa, that's pretty cool. So the whole time I lived in Israel, which was for 7 years, I loved being called Karen. And my name means ray of light in Hebrew. So I really like my name. So Who would like to introduce themselves? Who would like to go next? You can unmute Ingrid.
Hi, my name is Ingrid, obviously. I think my parents, when they named me, and my brother and my sister, had a really warped sense of humor. That's what I think, because my name is Ingrid Ursula, which when you're younger, that is not the name you want, because I was called like every crazy thing, ignorant and da. But now that I'm older, love my name. And my brother's name is Dimitri Alexander. Sounds kind of like a king. And my sister's name was Lauren Amber, which now that's a common name, but it wasn't back then. So that's what I think, is my parents just had a real wicked sense of humor, or warped. And that's it. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Ingrid. Who would like to go next?
Introduce myself.
Oh, okay. Terry and then Alex. Terry.
Hi, my name is Teresa Elizabeth Parmalee, and Teresa, my mother believed very deeply in when she had her babies and she saw them, she knew what their names were. She didn't think about it or plan ahead on any of us the 7 of us. She just believed, even with my kids, no matter what I named them, she's like, oh no, that's not Valerie, that's a Katie. So she calls my daughter Valerie Katie. So that's so she's like, oh no, she believed that very deeply. So there's no real background, or there's no rhyme or reason. She just thought I looked like a Teresa. Elizabeth is her last name, so I got named after her, thank God. And that's the story of my name.
Thank you, Terry. Alex.
So my name is Alex. I prefer Alex. My given name is Alexander. Never really liked that name. And I only have it on some of my identification, but not all of my identification, just because I want to make it as difficult as possible when I had to go and get my real ID card. When I was when I was like 3 years old, I overheard my father, who was a bit of a jerk. I overheard my father telling people that he had given me the name Alexander in hopes that some culture would pass onto me from the name and being named after Alexander the Great. And I filed this fact away in my little boy mind. And then when I was like 11 or 12, we were at some sort of gathering, and somebody asked why my parents had named me Alexander. And I then, being, whatever I was, 11 or 12, I said, well, it's because they'd hoped that finally some culture would pass down to me from Alexander the Great, at which point my father looked completely ashen because he hadn't realized that I had overheard this. And as I mentioned, he was a bit of a jerk. So I don't know the actual story of my name and why I got my name, but this is the story I prefer to carry with me because it actually says a lot more about my family dynamic.
Thank you, Alex. And you know what? It's true. You do have greatness, and I can attest to that. Who would like to go next?
I guess I would.
Great. Hi, Diane.
Oh, are you saying Diane?
Yeah. How about Diane and then Angela? Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Diana, and Diane, actually. But I would think I was named after Diana of the Hunt because my father's name was Aristotle Leonidas, which is a good Greek name, even though I'm of Italian background. So I think that they were continuing with the Greek naming when they named me. And I kind of like Diane, especially when Diana became the potential new queen, which she missed out on, because I always liked her because she was sharing my name. But Diana of the Hunt is what I was named after.
Awesome. Thank you, Diana. And Angela?
My parents named my brother and I named us after biblical names, both our middle and first and middle names. So that's how we got our names. And my first name is I guess you would say the Greek and the biblical name is Angel. So, of course that's what that is. My middle name is Joy, so obviously, hence the group thing.
So I'm hearing your middle name.
And my daughter's name. My daughter's first name, I actually named my daughter Joy. So
awesome. Thank you, Angela. That's beautiful. Thank you. Who would like to go next? Stephanie.
Hi, sorry, just had to unmute. Mine's sort of boring. It's more about my middle name. My mom just likes Stephanie, and my brothers are named Jeremy and Will, and she wanted English names. Our last name is Howard. I don't know. But Susan is my middle name. That's my mom's name. Her middle name was Elizabeth, which is her mom's name. And I've named my daughter, both my kids, their first names are their grandmothers who had passed away before each one of them was born, maiden names. And then that's middle name is my mom's name for my daughter. So yeah. So I try to keep the tradition of carrying on names through people. My daughter is a little embarrassed because it's McCann, which was my mom's main name, Stephanie. And she's like, people are like, that's so weird. It's your mom's name. And why did you have that? And I said, well, before my mom passed away, she said, no matter what the first name is, you need to, if you have a daughter, it would be great if you could have her middle name, your name, to carry on the tradition. So I honored that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next? My sister, my niece, Rhonda. Now, I should say, I remember the day Rhonda was born. Yeah, I remember it well.
So Rhonda Golden. And what I'm told is it was a drive-in movie my parents were at, and one of the people up on the screen was Rhonda Fleming, and they loved that name. So I became Rhonda.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Rhonda Fleming.
Wow.
Movie at the drive-in.
My sister, Debbie.
Deborah, I asked my mom, why did you name me Deborah? And who was I named after? And she said she thought a long while and she said, I don't remember. I don't know. I guess she just liked the name Deborah. But Anne, I was named after my dad's mother, and Deborah Ann. So I guess I'll tell you my nickname growing up, because nobody called me Deborah. But as an adult, I hated this. They called me Debbie Doodle, the Big Fat Noodle. But now I'm just Deb or Dee or Debbie or Deborah.
Thank you, my sweet sister. Now, I just want to say one thing before I introduce the other Debbie, which is that my sister Debbie, I'm sandwiched between two Debbies. I'm like the Debbie sandwich. It's amazing. So when we were kids, my sister Debbie used to always say to me, I wonder if I'll still be Debbie when I get to be old, because you never hear of any old people named Debbie.
Yeah.
And here I am.
And it's interesting, the old names way back, now they're coming back. They seem so odd, and why would anybody name their kid Thelma or Wilma? And now they're coming back.
Yes, the name Sophie is an extremely popular name now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I have two kids named Sophie on one of my projects right now. Two teenage girls named
Sophie. Yep. Names go in and out of fashion. So Debbie, on the other side of me, this Debbie.
In my family, you're always named after someone who passed. You know, a grandparent, an aunt, and I'm actually Devora, and I'm named after an aunt. And I tried so hard to be a Deborah, and I am spelled the same way as Deborah Golden Steinman. And no one would call me Deborah. So my mom called me Debbie from the start. I was little, she called me Debbie, and that stuck. And even as I became an adult and I thought I should have an adult name, I tried so hard to be Deborah, but no one would go for it. So I stuck with my Debbie.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
Let's give a hand to everyone. We now know everyone's stories.
We didn't hear from Jan.
Oh, Jan. Sorry, Jan.
Oh.
Jan, are you there? Would you like to share? Great.
I am here. I am Janet Lee, L-E-E, and I always like to pretend that I was named after Janet Lee, but I wasn't. I really was named after no one. I don't really have a story, but I always knew that when my mother called me Janet Lee, I was in trouble.
Okay. Well, thank you, Billy. Great. And now we've heard everyone's story. We are one step closer to being friends with each other, because that's how it starts. Once you hear someone's story, they can no longer be a stranger. That's one of the beauties of storytelling. Is it's such a way to make heartfelt connection. And as I look at all of your faces, I remember all your stories. I may not remember your names in the future, but I will remember all of your stories for sure. So the next part of this workshop, usually I teach over weeks and weeks and weeks. Sometimes it's a long course. Sometimes it's a few hours. So what I hope you'll get from it is just a smidgen of the things that I think about when I create a story or I tell a story. And I'm going to go kind of fast because I would like to spend the remainder of our time together hearing your stories and not having me talk about stuff. Okay. So all of this information you can find on the Art and Science of Joy, Year of Joy website. You can download the handout that I'm going to show you and all this information. I'm going to just do a quick screen share so that we can follow along. We're going to go through this pretty quickly, just so that we can spend the rest of the time sharing stories. Because I think I'd rather share stories, everybody together, rather than go into breakout rooms, because we have a nice, small, intimate group. Okay, so here we go. So this is the meat and potatoes of today. I call this the 7 essentials of a good story. The first essential is what I call the open the door. The open the door should introduce us to a time, a place, a character, or an action. So the open the door is how you get into the story. It's what leads your listener from the world of right now to wherever you're going in your story. Now, the open the door can be a folktale. It can be like a Once Upon a Time. It can be On a Dark and Scary Night. Those are kind of traditional or stereotypical openings. Or an open the door can be like when I was 5 years old or last week. That's how you get into the story. I know that for me, and I'm the worst offender of this, so I'm just going to put it right out there. Sometimes when I tell a story, I feel like I need to give a lot of background information so the audience will understand it. So I might say something like, this is a story I heard from my next door neighbors, mothers, housekeepers, was it their husband? I don't remember if they were married, husband or boyfriend, and I feel like I've got to give all that information and I've already lost the listener. So if that information is important, that can be given later on in the story. But the first thing is to just get into the story with an open the door, getting in there. So very quickly now, we're going to go around. And when you're ready to unmute, just unmute and jump in with an open the door sentence. You don't need to know the whole story. I just want to make sure you understand that an open the door is a person, a place, a time, or an action. It could be, oh no, I can't believe I did that. That's an action. It could be when I was 5. That's a time. It could be Mr. Smith had the biggest nose. That's a person. So we're going to just very simply open the door on some stories. You don't have to tell more than just get into the story. You open the door just to make sure you understand. Okay, go. Unmute and go.
I couldn't believe what happened yesterday.
Great.
I nearly died when I was 6, but obviously I didn't.
Okay.
Wow. There was so much fear. I knew something had to happen.
Great.
She sat staring at the wreckage.
Great.
Wow. The sparrow greeted the creator every morning with the most beautiful song.
There's sure a lot of rain today.
What a lovely day for a boat ride.
Great.
I can live outside in weather like this.
Awesome.
I was in New Jersey and it was raining.
Great. Anybody else? Okay. We've got into the story. Now what? Okay. Now we're going to talk about assuming that you have a story. And I'm not going to get into the details of what the difference is between a memory and a story. I'm not going to go into a lot of those details, but usually in a story, the character changes in some way, or we use the language, but once. So it could be, I used to, but once. That lets the listener know, oh, a story is about to happen. But I don't have time to get into all those details. We're going to assume that you understand the feeling of what a story is, because I'd like to focus on number 2, which is what I call sense activating words. colorful, crunchy, juicy, smelly, happy, smooth words, or words that make you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and feel. So I had a high school English teacher, and my sister Debbie had the same high school English teacher who used to say the statement, the best stories are told, Mr. Plord, with a maximum amount of thought in a minimum amount of words. That's what he used to say. So sense activating words are specific language that helps the listener. Welcome, Marcia. You're just joining us. We're going to jump right in. So sense activating words are words that activate our senses specifically. So instead of saying a red flower, you'd say a red rose. Instead of saying, I heard a loud sound, you could say, I heard the loud bang of a drum, or I heard a book fall. These are specific words that activate our senses. So we're going to do an exercise right now to help us come in touch with this. So when I tell a story, it doesn't matter if it's a folk tale or a true story, a personal story, or my own creation. What I do when I'm creating that story, and also when I'm telling the story, is I go back and I refine the sense words to tell that story. Because if I can use good sense language, my listener will be able to get the story from my head into their head. But if I don't use sense activating words, they may imagine something totally different than what I'm actually trying to convey. It's kind of like you're projecting a movie from your head to someone else's. Okay. So this activity we're going to do very quickly. And if you don't have a word to share, it's okay. Okay. So we'll move on to the next one. All right. First thing, you're going to close your eyes, and I want you to think about the first sound you hear in the morning. The first sound you hear in the morning. Open your eyes and tell us what the sound is.
My father-in-law's red truck.
Okay. It's great. Starting up. Okay. Stephanie.
Hanging around the kitchen.
Okay.
The dog
Birds.
barks.
The dog barking.
Okay.
Peace and quiet.
Okay. Ingrid.
The train that goes right behind my house, we call him Happy Horn Harry because he lays on the dang horn.
Okay. Another sound?
I have these birds in my backyard that always first thing in the morning. That's what I
Okay.
hear, always.
Okay,
The
Alex.
annoying cry of the bird we call the evil hooty hoot.
Okay. Debbie.
That's what my husband hears.
Oh, no. Okay. Close your eyes. Next word. You're going to think about the home of an older person. Maybe when you were a kid, you went into an older person's house, could be a relative, could be a neighbor, and taken a sniff. Open your eyes. What do you smell?
Mothballs.
Okay.
Cigar smoke.
Tortillas.
Okay.
Perfume.
What do I smell?
Old.
Cooking.
Mildew.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to the next sentence. Close your eyes.
Okay.
And now you're going to go into your refrigerator. You're going to taste your favorite food item that's in your fridge. It could be the freezer. And I want you to describe it using one word. Open your eyes.
Ice cream.
Cold. Yeah, ice cream.
Okay.
Rich.
Fresh.
Rich.
Okay.
Chocolatey.
Fresh.
Luscious.
Okay.
Ice.
Great. Okay.
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Okay. Sweet. All right. Close your eyes. One more.
Okay.
This time you are going to find an object in your house that has meaning for you, something that will help us to know you. Take a look at that object in your mind, and you're going to open your eyes and describe it using a visual description.
My mother's upright piano.
Okay.
Hand painted elephants.
Okay.
A thin brass rune on a leather cord.
Awesome.
My
The
mother and
Lady of
father's
Shalott.
picture.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Angela, and then Ingrid.
My mother and father's picture.
Okay.
The Lady of Shalott.
Okay.
I have a mosaic array of picture frames, pictures on my wall in the shape of a family tree.
Okay. Beautiful.
Pictures of my grandkids.
Okay.
My family wall of pictures.
Awesome. Okay. One more. Oh, Debbie, my sister Debbie.
Oh, beautiful painted flowers that you'll see behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. Close your eyes. Final one. I want you to touch an animal. Maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a cat, maybe it's your pet turtle, and use a word to describe the touch, the feeling of it. Open your eyes.
Wiggly. Wiggly.
Okay.
Softness.
Velvety soft.
Fluffy.
Okay. Debbie, my sister.
Softness.
Okay.
Silky.
Spiny. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Silky. Good.
Spiny.
Okay. Okay. Great. Everyone has used their senses. Oh, Terry, do you have a word?
Yeah. I was thinking of my cat, and I thought I just feel appreciated when I touch her.
Appreciate it. Okay, I feel appreciated. That's lovely. A lovely word. Okay. So this activity is what I do every time I tell a story. I think about these things. And when I'm telling a story, I don't always use the same words when I'm sharing it, because sometimes I activate other sense words in thinking about it. And depending on who I'm telling the story to, the story changes. So you have to be okay when you're telling a story, knowing that it won't always come out exactly the same. It'll come out perfect. It'll come out perfect every time if you can connect with the audience. So the words might change, the words you use to describe things. Okay. The final essential that I'd like to share with you is what I call a magic moment. A magic moment happens when the storyteller stops telling the story from the narrator's point of view and becomes one of the characters by either using a character voice or a body movement. So a magic moment is the opportunity to be an actor in your story. So instead of me saying the man was 6 feet tall, I can say the man was about this tall. Now, if I was in person with you, you'd see this and immediately you'd get it. Instead of saying Mr. Jones had a big booming voice, I would say Mr. Jones stood in front of the class and he said, "Class, sit down already. What's going on?" And I would act the part of Mr. Jones. Now, I will say that one of the best magic moment, that's a hard word to say, magic moment makers I know is Ingrid, who is in our workshop. She does incredible animal voices, and I've heard her do it. She is amazing at her animals and her stories. And when you become an animal in a story, that's becoming a magic moment. That's what makes the story so much fun. So, in just a few minutes, we are going to have the opportunity to share a story about joy. What brings you joy? A very short moment of joy. So I'm going to demonstrate by sharing with you a very short story that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. And I will demonstrate a magic moment in this story. The story starts at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was on the island of Kauai, Hawaii. And I put on my boots and I didn't pull the tongue up. You ever done that? You don't pull the tongue up and it feels really uncomfortable. And my friends started yelling, come on, you got to walk faster. You're going to miss it. Okay, that's a magic moment. I could have said my friends started telling me I needed to move faster, but no, I want to do a magic moment. You got to move faster. I said, I'm trying. I started trudging along and my feet were killing me, especially my left foot, because the tongue was like stuck. And I said, I'm walking as fast as I can. They said, you're going to miss it. You better run. And so I started hobbling along. And that's when I realized that I had to fix the tongue of my shoe. So I stopped at the side of the road and I pulled out the tongue and I relaced my shoe. And now they were really far ahead. And they turned around and they said, you better run. And so I started running and running. I started feeling sweaty. My feet were no longer hurting me, but I was sweating and I was running and I was running. They said, run faster. You only have 2 minutes. And I was running and it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I was running and running and running. And finally, I made it to the top of the mountain just in time to see the sunrise. And the sunrise was so amazing. It was peeking out from behind the mountain and there were clouds. And it was, first of all, yellow and then red and then gold. And as I stood there, I realized that for me, seeing the sunrise brings me so much joy. And then one of my friends snapped a photo and I can think back on this amazing memory about running to the top of the mountain, seeing the sunrise. I was so happy that I made it. And just thinking about that sunrise brings me so much joy. And that's my short story about joy. So I want to make sure that it's okay with all of you if we run a little bit over, because we're scheduled to end in 16 minutes. So is it okay if we run a little over if some of you would like to share your joy stories? So those of you who have to leave immediately, if you'd like to share, Stephanie, you have to jump now. Would you like to share your joy story first?
Sure. Yeah, I have a few minutes. I got it.
Okay. So we're going to just share short stories. See if you can open the door, give us some description, do a magic moment. Now, I haven't talked about close the door. Close the door is how you get out of the story and share maybe a message. It doesn't have to be like the moral of the story is, but in my story, I say, I think about that morning. And I do. And that's how I get out of the story. Okay, go for it, Stephanie.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm going to tell, but I was just in Japan, so I'm going to think of something for that. The door opened on the subway on the first morning that we were in Japan after having left the plane and landed at 5 a.m. that morning. And we had no idea where to go. So my daughter quickly ran up to somebody because we were late for an appointment, which we were wondering, why did we make this appointment on our very first day in Japan after having just landed 3 hours ago? And what were we thinking, trying to figure out the subway system? So my daughter was very frustrated and she said to me, Mom, what were you thinking? You should have gone back to the hotel and made a plan. And why did we go straight to the subway and try to figure out Tokyo on our first day when we're jet lagged and we're so tired? And here I am feeling so guilty as a mom, and it's very overwhelming, and nothing is in English, and it's a work day, so everyone's rushing to work. But we decided, okay, we're going to just push forward. This is what we've decided. And so we did find someone that was figuring out they were putting money in and not rushing to their job. And we bowed and we said our few things in Japanese and said, can you help us? Do you speak any English? And they said no. So we're like, I don't even know where to go and how to figure this out. But they pointed to someone that they must have known or something. And we asked them and they spoke English, and they showed us how the color system worked on the Tokyo subway, and gave us the directions. And we bowed to each other, which was our first encounter with someone local in all this chaos in the subway system in Tokyo. And so it ended up being, we had clarity and we made a personal connection with someone in Japan, and we exchanged vows, made that connection. And so it ended up kicking off the day, even though we thought we had a chaotic, stressful start, into just like one of the most memorable moments of our trip.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was lovely. And you opened the door. You used great sense words. You had wonderful magic moments. You had it all. And I will remember that color coding if I ever go to Japan. So I got a lesson from your story as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephanie.
And thank you so much. I've learned so much, and it was so lovely hearing everyone's name, stories, and meeting you all. And hope you have a joyful week. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Bye.
Who would like to go next? Anyone else like to share a story? Not everybody has to share a story, but if you'd like to, we'd love to hear your story. And that doesn't have to be perfect. We're all friends.
Okay, I'll take a go.
Great.
I'm a little nauseous. So my daughter picked me up for my birthday surprise. And it was a Sunday, and it was my birthday's in January, so it was a very, very cold Sunday. So she picked me up for a surprise, and we're driving, and I like surprises, but I was nervous, and I had tried to get some hints, and she was not giving it. So we drove, we parked, we walked. And her gift to me, we like to give experiences because small houses, too much stuff. So her experience for my birthday was a painting class, one of those painting, drink wine and paint classes. Only this one was mostly just children and their mothers, basically. It was mermaid, a mommy mermaid, and me painting class. And I was terrified. I have avoided these classes my whole life because I'm not a painter. I'm an artist, but I'm not a painter. I don't draw, I don't paint. And those classes make me feel like throwing up on my shoes. Class, I'll be really quick. It was wonderful. I overcame this fear. I got less nauseous. The teacher was wonderful. All the moms with their little daughters were wonderful. Here were grown women, myself and my daughter. And so that was my 60th birthday gift from my daughter. And it was marvelous.
That's awesome. I want to see the painting someday.
Yes.
I want to see the picture. Yeah. That was so great.
Yes.
Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Terry.
So I was just thinking about the thing that makes me the most happy. And the thing that makes me the most happy is being outside on beautiful days, the sunshine, the clean air, I don't know, I'm a native Californian and I'm spoiled rotten. Well, like I said before, if I could live outside in this beautiful weather, I would. On my 50th birthday, when I turned 50, that's a big milestone for me. So what did I do? I went to Catalina Island and with my pup tent and my backpack, and I camped on the ground and walked everywhere I had to go. And it was the most beautiful experience, Not only was I outside and it was, I'm a May baby, May 23rd. So of course it's beautiful in May. And just typically being outside, it gives me joy. It's just pure joy. I don't do the cold. I'm not a happy, joyous person in the cold. I have a motorcycle, love to ride motorcycle. Just being in the wind and being in the air and, just the freedom of not being, in the house all the time. It's just incredible to me.
Wow. Terry, I love the feeling of being the wind as you're on your motorcycle. That is so amazing. And we're
so nice lately.
The amazing thing for me, I when I was talking earlier, I said being on a boat. I said I was on a boat. I was thinking about that experience. I just got off the boat from Catalina an hour ago. And I understand what it's like to be out there on Catalina. You're away from everything. And we just got off the boat, literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know exactly where you were camping out, Terry.
I know. I could see your place from where I was camping.
Wow.
I used to work for Diane years ago, and it's just an incredible feeling just seeing you today.
Yeah,
what a place to meet.
That's so good to know each other.
Yeah. I used to work for her years ago.
And Debbie used to work for me, and then we went to work for Debbie. It's a whole continuum here.
That's amazing. Wow. What a great connection.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Diane. That's awesome. And Terry, I'll think of you on May 23rd. My birthday's May 1st, so we're both May babies. Awesome.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm May 24th, so I love Geminis, and I love the
We have such a bad rap, we Geminis, don't we?
So who'd like to go next with a story? A joyful tale.
Sure, I'll go.
Okay, Debbie, then Alex.
5.5 years ago, I was visiting my daughter in New York City. It was a fall day. It was beautiful out. I was playing with my grandson, Charlie. He was just 3 years old. It was really lovely. And then all of a sudden, my daughter took a fall in the apartment, and I got really concerned, and I was really worried because she was 38 weeks pregnant. So very quickly, we went to the hospital, and it was just beautiful out. The trees were sort of blowing, and there was this crisp air. I don't know if any of you have been in the New York area in the fall. It's just got this wonderful smell to it. Really beautiful. And we went to the hospital, and, you know, my grandson was home with a babysitter, and I was with my daughter, and the doctor said, we've got to take the baby out now. We don't know if anything has happened. And I was in the room with her, quite frantic, because that wasn't my plan. I had never been in a room with my children having babies. And I stood there and watched as my daughter was in a lot of pain, and it was very hard for me to watch this miracle. And then all of a sudden, this little baby girl appeared. And I'm going to cry. And my daughter said, "Oh, Mom, meet Sarah." Sarah was my mom.
Oh, Sarah.
And she had passed away just a few years before. And this little baby was born and named after my mom. And it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, and probably brought me the most joy that I can remember.
Oh, Debbie, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Wow. An unexpected joy at an unexpected time.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you. That was so lovely. Alex, would you like to share your story?
Sure. It was almost exactly 2 months ago that I was on my way to the airport for what turned out to be a 38-hour trip on 3 different planes, 2 of which were red eyes, which, by the way, is a young person's game. It is not something I recommend for anyone who is over 30, because I was going to see my wife, Amy, who was in the East Fjords of Iceland, finishing up a 30-day artist residency. And I finally got there, and it was beautiful in this little village that had maybe 120 people there, and there was snow on the ground, and the residency is in a former fish factory. And in fact, it's called the Fish Factory Creative Center. And the artists, there were 7 artists, and they were in these 2 different big houses. And we all got together one night, that night, for a party at one of the houses. And I got to meet all of these people, and they were lovely, some from the UK and one from France and Denmark and Iceland and Canada, and Amy from Los Angeles, and we had been told that there was a good chance that the Northern Lights would be out that night. So when we were coming back to where we were staying, we looked up and there was very, very faint aurora activity, just a little bit of green. And I was disappointed because I love the Northern Lights and I really was hoping to see them. And we went inside and and it was cold. It was like 15 degrees outside Fahrenheit. And we went to bed. And then about an hour later, this group text came in that just said, the lights are out. And so everybody in the 2 different houses got up, put on their coats and their boots and everything. And we all went outside and we looked up and there was just a little bit of activity, and everyone was talking and everyone was like saying, well, what should we do? Where should we go? And we decided that we would go down towards where the fjord was. So we went down to the water, and then suddenly everyone got quiet. And someone whispered, to the south. And we all looked up, and it was the most vibrant, amazing display of Northern Lights I had ever seen. And not only was there green, but there was red visible to the naked eye. And usually it's just green, so the red is very rare. And we're all sitting there and we're watching it. And we stayed out for about 90 minutes, even though it was way too cold to be out for 90 minutes. And I just remember watching the lights dancing above us. And all I could think is, I understand why people who watched this thousands of years ago were convinced it was the gods dancing above them.
Wow, Alex. Oh, so beautiful. I can see those lights. Totally. Wow. I hope to see the lights someday myself. Oh, that was lovely.
Yeah. I'm with you,
Reportedly,
Karen.
you could see them last night in Northern California.
Really? They were there?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in peak aurora this year and next year.
Wow. I'll have to go up there and see them.
I'm with you, Karen, and Alex. Wow. I mean, you just painted a picture. I wish I would have been there with you, freezing my tuchus off, and enjoying the lights.
Yeah. Oh. Ingrid, would you like to share a story?
I will, but you know what? It's one of it's not joy, but it's kind of like it's about my confidence, and it's a bit more racy than everything. Okay, so my husband and my husband and I and my mother-in-law and my father-in-law just left the Forest Theater, and Philadelphia welcomed us with the sirens and the smells of the underground subway. So I'm walking, following my husband, and my father-in-law is right next to me. But where's my mother-in-law? So I looked back at just the right time, because she was surrounded by 2 very tall gentlemen, and she had a bulky unsnapped umbrella on one hand and her purse open on the other hand. So as one gentleman bumped into her, the other one leaned into her purse and pulled something out. So I yelled to my husband, I yelled to my father-in-law, wait, I think someone just stole your mother's wallet. So I snaked like a spawning salmon through the crowd, and I got to my mother-in-law and I asked her, do you have your wallet? And she looked up with a doe-eyed expression, so scared, no. So I followed the men, I bet the best I could. They turned the corner, And there was a huge SUV with dark tinted windows trying to fight its way into traffic where the red light was. So I didn't know what to do. So I stepped off the corner and I stood in front of the SUV for what seemed like I couldn't even tell you how long. And the passenger door opened. The man jumped out and without even looking at me, gave me a sheepish sorry and handed me my mother-in-law's wallet. Got back into the car and raced back into traffic after the green light. And, well, I was kind of hailed as the hero of that day. Now, joyful, maybe not, but confident. I thought to myself, okay, wow, would I do it again? Hell to the no. Excuse my language.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable. Wow. What made him change heart like that?
I have no idea. But all I know is for those, how many ever seconds, my palms sweated, my heart beat so, and my breathing was shallow, and I don't know, maybe it was an angel, someone's angel watching over me. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
If I can be a little bit salty as well in response, that is so totally badass. And the reason he gave the wallet back is he recognized, I think, at some fundamental level that he was not, even if it was just temporary, that he was not dealing with a normal human being. He was dealing with somebody who was a complete badass and could mess him up. So good on you, even if you wouldn't do it again.
I thank you. That will be my new given name, Ingrid Ursula Badass Bond, and I will stick with it. Thank
you. Wow, that is just amazing story. Oh man, wow. Jan, would you like to share more, or my sister Debbie, who's gone off camera, would you like to share a story? Because we'd like to hear your story.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. My sister Debbie, would you like to share a story?
She may have stepped away.
She may have stepped away, so wait a second. Maybe she'll come back. So that
we only have 10 more minutes.
Yeah, okay. So this is what I had planned, and we didn't go into breakout rooms because we had an opportunity to hear everybody's story. And actually, I know everyone here except for Jan and Terry. So everyone else is either like close friend or family. So you can find out more about me on the Art and Science of Joy website. My bio is there. And if you click on my bio, you can also see updated information regarding some shows that I'm doing in the upcoming couple of weeks. And I will say that Alex videotaped my show in my house and literally saved my life because I didn't know how my show was going to happen. And thanks to Alex, my new one-woman show is videotaped. And Alex, right at this moment, it's being edited. I hired a professional editor. So the version that you saw is now being edited to a better version. So, and he came over this morning and he said, looks really good, but I can help you with editing. So it's going to be edited like badass. It's going to look really good. Anyway, so if you'd like, I can put information about my new show in the chat. It is virtual. It is not a joyful show. It is not about joy at all, but it is really important. It's a historical piece, but it's an important show. So I can put that information in the chat. But just know that it's.
I would just interject that although it might not be something you would think of as joyful, I think there is a real joyful element to it in that it let you recapture and reconnect with something very important in your past and in your family's history.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Alex has seen the whole show. He videotaped it all. He saw the version you're about to see. Actually, it's through his eyes that you will see it. But it's a very important piece to me because so sometimes joy doesn't always come from, I guess, happiness. Joy can also come from the satisfaction of knowing the truth. And my show is about that kind of satisfaction. So I'll put it into the chat. So the video
is this
on
the one that you've been working on for a really long time, Karen? The one about your dad?
Yeah, 3.5 years. Yes. So this is the video on demand. This is where you can watch it anytime during a 2-week period starting on May the 7th. And this is the link to the live. This is the live premiere. And the live premiere, I'm going to also have a special guest. The man who built the memorial that's in my father's village in Pilvisky will be joining me for the live premiere to talk about why he built it, how he built it. It's going to be very special. And that's on the 7th of May at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you can come, there are 2 ways of seeing my show. My show is called Pilvisky, My Father's Village. It's about going back to Lithuania to visit the home where my father was born. Not the home, but the village where my father was born. Okay, so this is all I planned. So now we can party and just talk. Now that we're officially, done. I hope you learned something about storytelling, about the art of storytelling. I loved hearing your stories. I hope that these little pointers will help you feel more free in telling stories. I know that for me, whenever I get stuck and I think, oh boy, I can't do this. I think about how do I open the door? What are some of the sense words I need to use? How can I create a magic moment? How can I create some dialogue? These are the things that I think about in trying to bring my stories to life. So I hope that my workshop, it will enhance your storytelling, because for me, storytelling is the ultimate glue between people. And it glues us with the past, it glues us with the present, and it will glue us to the future. So it's really important to me. My kids are always coming in and saying to me, Mom, are you on a storytelling event again? Because I'm online all the time. I'm with Alex on Sunday, every Sunday evening. I'm with Ingrid every Friday afternoon. We do storytelling. So, and plus lots of other storytelling. So
just to tie this all together, the whole reason this is on the Year of Joy, because that is what this was all inclusive to, is that understanding stories, telling them, understanding how they're told, and understanding how to receive them is all part of belonging and community. And one of the core elements of having a joyful life is belonging. There are 4 core elements. It's well-being, belonging, positive impact, and fun. And so this is all part of that. And I want to tell you, Karen, that was just a wonderful workshop. It was a wonderful way to understand how storytelling is done and done well, and how that could help all of us to have more joy in our lives. So great job, Karen. Really great job.
Yes, thank you.